Good afternoon again. For the ones who stayed online and followed the whole virtual conference the whole day, I hope you had some new inspiration for the day. I'm really looking forward to the next hour. We are now waiting for the other panelists to come online. There I see Lester already, based in New York from IP Parking. Hans is back. Sorry, Hans, for the timing. We were really strict on the timing, but I hope we'll have more time to share all the other thoughts about your presentation and to share it with all the audience. Dieme also welcome from Schiphol. And then I see Neil from Diaz. And we are only waiting for Jeff. Oh, Jeff is behind my dashboard, Jeff from ParkMobile. So good afternoon, everyone. Also, thank you so much for being here in the panel. I think, or my team was, when we prepared this whole conference 6 weeks ago, and we knew that all the congresses and trade shows were canceled, we thought it would be the only way to help the industry out. It would be good to keep the communication going, and especially to also inform about the great solutions the industry is offering to the industry. But unfortunately, we are facing very unprecedented situation at the moment with COVID-19. I personally was also affected by it, was hospitalized for 4 days, and I survived. So I'm happy that I'm here, and my team did all the great efforts to work on the agenda. But moreover, it also did affect all your businesses, not only your personal lives, but also your business, your company. Might be that you even had to say goodbye to some people in your company, and therefore I'm really happy to have this conversation going. How this works today is the following: is we will show you a few questions to the audience. So have a look at the questions we can ask our panelists, and you're going to vote on the most interesting question. So that question will be the question which we will be handling. But before I do that, I would like to give the word in my screen from left to right, which starts with Lester. If you can do a short introduction, who you are, who you represent, and then I will go from there to Hans, Dieme, Neil, and Jeff. Thank you, Lester. Your word.
Hey, thank you for having us. This is exactly the sort of thing we need to be doing right now to try to continue to provide value to the industry in whatever way we can. My name is Lester Mascon, as is said, and I work with IP Parking in the United States.
Okay, Hans.
Yeah, I'm Hans Puvogel. Do you hear me? Yeah. I'm Hans Puvogel at Parkopedia. I'm responsible for customers, sourcing, and also the CFO. So I'm the numbers guy, and obviously confronted across the board with COVID-19 implications. And it's great that you guys are setting this up, because only by exchanging ideas we can be efficient in battling the current crisis.
Okay, Dieme.
My name is Dieme Ketel, responsible within the Amsterdam Airport Schiphol operations for parking, public parking, staff parking, all mobility services, car rental, Uber, and these are all clients of us. And at current, we of course have only a few passengers, and therefore also less parking.
Yeah, Neil.
Hi, hello everyone. Neil Corr from Ideas Revenue Solutions. So we're the leading provider of revenue management technology, principally for airport parking. So like everyone, experiencing unprecedented changes. So doing everything we can now to provide support for our 20+ clients in global airports and all of those airports in our network. So pleasure to be here today, and thank you, Jorrit, for arranging a great event.
Thank you, Jeff. Not the last and least, but good morning to you. I don't have any sound, Jeff. Perhaps you're muted.
There you go. Okay, sorry about that.
There you are. Good morning.
Hey everyone, good to be here. Greetings from rainy Atlanta, Georgia. It's 9 a.m. Eastern time here, so good to be with you today. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Product at ParkMobile. ParkMobile is the #1 app for parking in the United States. We're in most major markets, including New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. And obviously, if people are not parking, this has a major impact on our business. And so we've done some pivoting recently. So I'm happy to share some of what we're doing on the webinar today.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I would like to go to the first questions where we can choose off. So that will be shown in a poll. So the first
Jorrit,
question will be.
Let me briefly interrupt. You also need to introduce Eliseo Diaz from FlashParking.
Oh, Eliseo, yes, he's not. But I don't see him in my screen. That's my problem, probably.
Yeah, his webcam is off. So if you can hear this.
Okay, Eliseo. Sorry, Eliseo, my friend. Good morning to you as well. Please introduce yourself. I was only looking at my panel.
Yeah, so there seems to be a limit on the number of webcams that can be allowed in the conference. But
okay,
yeah,
do you know what I do? I will put mine off. So now you can put your on.
Let's try that. All right, there we are.
This.
Great. Better late than never. Hi everyone. My name is Eliseo Diaz. I'm a co-founder of FlashParking, and now leading our international efforts for expanding outside of the US. FlashParking is a pioneer in cloud-based parking technology, and we're currently deploying the first mobility hub operating system that is designed to transform isolated parking assets into connected mobility hubs, not only making these parking facilities more efficient, but also intelligent and extensible in the type of services that they're able to offer. So we're, we had some great success in the US, and now looking forward to bringing our solutions to other parts of the world. So thank you so much for inviting us. I think this webinars are great initiatives and great opportunity to keep things moving forward in the industry. So really excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Eliseo. So let's move on with the questions we have set up. So you can now choose in the poll section between 4 questions, and the most popular question we will be discussing. So the first question is, I think you can read yourself. Has it been an impact on your business? What measures have you taken? What will the overall effect on the industry, or how do you think the parking industry will evolve during these difficult times? So please make your vote, and then in the coming 20 to 30 seconds, we will have the outcome, and we will make the round in the panel to see what the ideas are. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's it. Why not, Steph? Yes. So the most important question, what we see, and that's what I also expected, how you think the parking industry will evolve. At this moment, not many people are parking their cars, only at their home. So how do you think this parking industry will evolve in the coming time? So does anyone would like to start on this point? If you raise your finger, I will give the word to somebody. Yeah, Dieme from Schiphol.
Yeah, so basically our parking products at the airport will, of course, are heavily dependent on what is going to happen in aviation. And when traveling is going to start up again and passengers are moving, basically what we already see is that as soon as it will start, people are now at current more reluctant to travel by train or by buses. So in that case, I think it will have people start driving themselves to and from airports or large shopping centers, or that they will use the car more and park more. But then we also have to provide innovative solutions in terms of that they can visit the locations safely and with distancing and no contact with our assets or payment machines and things like that.
Yeah, so it's all depending on the aviation, how quick people will be starting traveling again. And Jeff, what's your idea on this evolvement in time?
Yeah, the interesting thing that we're seeing, so with ParkMobile, our business is obviously way down. We're seeing transaction volume drop off about 90% overall across the country, and this is in the US specifically. But in markets that we operate, we're seeing mobile app usage upwards of 70 to 90%, where it's usually around 50% of mobile app versus the meter. So what you're going to see coming out of COVID-19, when things do start to get back to normal, fewer people willing to touch the machine, more contactless payment. And so parking providers need to think about, what are our contactless options? Can we give more people the option to pay via app or to pay online before they go? So there's not touching meters, touching equipment, and everything is really contactless. And so you're going to see much more of this. We just rolled out in New York City last week. So we added the ParkMobile app as an option in New York City, and it's all designed around preventing people from touching the meter. So you still have paid parking because you need vehicles to turn. Even if there are fewer vehicles, you need those vehicles to turn, but you don't want people touching the meters anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Hans, do you have any feedback from your side?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Jeff's statement. We see that across the board, and that's one of the things that will remain. I'm convinced that people will be hesitant to touch things that other people have touched. So contactless payment is definitely one of the areas. But that also goes a step further, because shared mobility will take a hit as well, which is in a way a good thing for the parking industry, because airport parking, and Dieme pointed that out, is down because of overall, and had been down because of Uber and Lyft, in particular in those areas where there's a lot of Uber and Lyft activity. So that may change, and some of the other segments of the parking industry will also be positively affected by a reduction in shared mobility. But there will also be some other things. I mean, if you look at the revenue generation, in particular of commercial operations today, it is more or less single source. You have transient parking and some long stay, and there are very few exceptions to that. And that is basically betting the farm on one horse. And we now see that that's a problem, a significant problem, and that the overall business model of highly leveraged companies that relied on low interest rates and a very stable cash flow is a highly vulnerable business model, and that will have to change. We will also see consolidation on the operator side, because some of them will not make it, despite government bailouts. And we will see consolidation on the service provider side, in particular those that, the startups, etc., that needed funding now or in the near future and have this collapse of their revenues will have an extremely hard time to get the next round of funding done. Startups that are not profitable in the mobility space right now will have an extremely hard time to survive this. And that will be a change in a number of areas as well, as we see consolidation in that space.
Okay, thank you. Neil or Lester, I saw Neil first.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just to echo really what Hans said. So I think it's interesting to me, the physical aspects of the contactless, which is clearly going to be a key element of expectations through the recovery. But we're also, prior to the outbreak of COVID-19, we were talking to a lot of airports about the agility of harnessing the convergence of all of the data within the typical ecosystem of an airport, say, in terms of the mobility sector. So we would hope that in addition to some of those fundamental elements of contactless, also an opportunity to look at the financial implications of if you're not harnessing that technology today, you don't have agile ecosystems. So we think that's going to really come to the forefront now, where airports are going to want to sweat the asset a lot harder in a much more agile fashion. So having technology that's going to optimize the performance of parking as it goes from a slower base and then begins to recover in the coming months.
Okay, thank you. And Lester, what's your idea on the future in parking?
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of what's been said. I don't think anybody's missed the mark at all. Using more hands-free, more touchless payment methods, contactless payment methods is certainly going to be on the rise. But I also think that people are going to focus on having equipment and hardware and software on their facilities that are going to be lower touch, meaning there's not this humongous server infrastructure that's going to be on site, that it's more of a web-based, cloud-based options. You're not requiring service technicians to come out to, touch your database and do that sort of thing. So I think there'll be a heavy focus on that. I think cost is going to come into play because obviously money has been pulled back from the table. There'll be less revenue coming into the facilities, so lower cost will be something. Consolidation as well, that was mentioned by Hans, and I think that's we haven't yet seen what that's going to look like, but if you look at the organizations that were struggling prior to all this starting, when the economy was at its best, I think you'll can pretty easily point to where you'll start seeing consolidation.
Okay, thank you. And Eliseo, what are your ideas on this matter?
Yes, for sure. So I think the industry will definitely need to evolve. We will need to apply the attitude of adapt and overcome. I've only been in the industry for less than 10 years, which, by some of my peers, that's a really short period of time. But in this short period, I've seen, I've seen a lot of transformation happening, and we still have a long way to go. But I think this is going to accelerate some of those initiatives that had already been brewing. And as I mentioned in my intro, operators and asset owners will definitely have to look around and try to figure out how to transform their parking facilities and really ask the questions, what other sources of revenue are there? And also, just as important, how are these revenue sources are going to be managed? We were fortunate enough that earlier this year, we closed a large round of funding. So that's going to not only help us continue to expand rapidly, but also be able to weather the storm for unfortunate situations like this that we are going through.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to add something on this question? If not, then we go on to the next poll for the next question, Steph. Okay, now we can choose between the solutions most suited to currently implemented measures. How are you connecting with clients currently? How are you taking care of your staff, which is of course also really important. How have you kept daily operations running? So please make your vote for the answer, the question we are going to talk about for the coming 10 minutes. So the solutions most suited to currently implemented measures. How are you connecting with clients currently? How are you taking care of your staff? And how have you kept daily operations running? Please make in your poll section, you can choose, and then we will have an outcome in a few seconds. And I think we can go to the results. And the result is, what parking solutions do you think are most suited for? Oh, yeah, it was the good one. The outcome is 50% would like to talk about solutions most suited to currently implemented measures. So who would like to start on this? Yes, Eliseo.
Thank you. So for sure, there will be a lot of innovative ideas that are going to come out of this. But many of these solutions, I think there's a lot of them are already there with some form of fashion, and the uptake will vary by the mode of parking the individuals choose to use moving forward. Some of these include online reservations, obviously mobile payments, which was mentioned earlier, and frictionless parking. For frictionless parking, we all know AVI readers in the US, Tagmaster and Transfer are some of the most commonly used. And obviously license plate recognition, which there's a number of solutions out there. We recently introduced the access via BLE with the Bluetooth technology and mobile app, which is one of the latest. And at FlashParking, we've been deploying a combination of this. So it will be just interesting to see, look back a few months from now and see what the uptake has been and the adoption rate on all of this, looking at the metrics and the dashboard. So it's really, at the end of the day, the parking gates are going to be the judge. But I think that, some of this is already out there. We just need to, I think they're just going to accelerate to the adoption rate.
Thank you. So a lot of existing methods can be used very well in these times. Lester also would like to contribute on this question.
Yeah, so I agree with Eliseo. I think where some of the products that we've seen is kind of more of a premium option, or there's a, where you see 20, 30% of the transactions flowing through some sort of a reservation or an app-based payment in different areas, you're just going to see that completely shift. So we've offered ticketless parking for years, and it'll be something that I think will all of a sudden catch a lot of interest. The full frictionless with LPR, those are all things that many people are able to do, but I think that they're going to be picked up, and that's going to be more of the standard going forward than it is today.
Thank you, Dieme. Are you, or sorry, Jeff was. Jeff, sorry, you're muted. Jeff, you're muted. Yeah. No, I don't hear you. Jeff, you're muted. Okay, then I give the word to Hans.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, when we're talking about the measures, I think there are different levels. So there's the short-term stuff like the shelter in place or lockdowns, etc. But that's going to be over at some point in time, and building solutions around that is probably not very sensible. But let's say social distancing and the basic principles around that, that will remain. And here, I think the solutions that are as deeply integrated with the vehicle as possible are the right solutions. So anything that is fragmented and requires all different sorts of different devices, technologies, applications, etc., from a customer is going to be a problem. The more it is integrated with the vehicle, automated payments by the vehicle itself, like we've recently demonstrated with Mercedes, is something where we see the future. So yes, it's about mobile payments, it's about contactless, etc. But I think you can take it even a step further and integrate it with the vehicle itself, use vehicle sensors, in-vehicle technology, and make it a completely touch-free, touchless experience for the user or the consumer out there.
Okay, and Dieme, I think you have been talking with your team a lot about the parking solutions you have been offering in the past, and how this whole COVID-19 is affecting your business, and what kind of parking solutions would suit the best in the future. What are you doing with your team to if you talk about these park solutions at the moment?
I totally agree with Hans in providing touchless parking solutions. Luckily, we are in a situation at Schiphol that we already have a lot of license plate recognition and that kind of solutions. We have it in place. The last few weeks, we have been very busy in scaling down our operations, and especially to a certain bare minimum, where we also want to have everyone in place in terms of in our control rooms. But we're scaling down, we're closing products. And actually, since last week, we start making the plans to scale up again. And in that, we of course, have to consider solutions for the issues that we're now foreseeing. And I definitely know that we will have to put measures in place that will allow people to have contactless parking at Schiphol. So we still have some challenges in our processes, but yeah, we have to look on our remote locations on how we provide the bus service and with which social distancing rules and regulations, but also in accepting credit cards, provide parking tickets, yes or no. I think it will in the future will be replaced by.
It's a lot about the focusing on online reservation and mobile payments, and that's then I also would like to give from Hans. Jeff, we did not hear you, so therefore I gave the word to Hans. But Hans was talking about that mobile payments integrated in the cars in itself will be the future, and yeah, ParkMobile owned by the BMW. So that I think you can elaborate on that matter as well.
Yeah, I do agree. In the next few years, you're going to see more in-car integrations. It's still early, though. Not many OEMs actually have the parking technology built into the center display, so it integrates back with the app. Mercedes or BMW is actually one of the few that actually has that. But as you see more of the Googles and Apples going in-car, it's going to enable that a lot more, especially as they start to offer financial transactions from the center display unit. But I think the point I'd like to make is that a lot of what you need to look for if you're evaluating parking technology today is less about, does this technology do everything I need, but more about, does it integrate with all of my different tools that I would want to plug in? And because the parking industry is highly fragmented, the technology is there are tons of players out there. We alone have to integrate with 100 different technologies to provide our service for ParkMobile. So I think one of the big things that you're going to see is that the technologies that integrate well with other players are the ones that are probably going to win, because if you don't have those integrations and everything's a one-off point solution, then nothing's really going to work the way you want it to. So, an example is we have an integration with FlashParking, actually, where you could take the ticket with the ParkMobile app, scan it, and then basically pay for the ticket with the ParkMobile app, and then put it in and it lifts the gate. Those kind of integrations are going to be more and more important for the industry as we really get to this this state of contactless payments and mobile payments, so people aren't having to touch equipment and interact with attendants.
Okay, thank you. So working together with all the industry partners is key in these times. Neil, I'm also wondering how Diaz is coping and looking at the solutions from the past, but definitely to the future. And how are you, talking with your clients about how to combat this COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean it's key for us, really. I mean, we found, echoing really what Jeff was saying, the integrations is a key part. So in an industry where data is volatile, anyway, we've had, fortunately, we have 30 years of history behind us from both hospitality and 15 years in parking, where despite most of the force majeure or major events not being on the level that we've seen with COVID-19, we do have a variety of precedents with SARS, Ebola, and other factors that have drastically impacted demand and the uncertainty of demand. So using advanced data mining and looking at how our algorithms play out, inevitably a lot of questions were asked about 2020 data. Is it effectively all worth putting in the bin now, because it's seen upwards of 90 and 95% reductions in demand in parking transactions. So we're trying to restore a lot of confidence with our clients to say, look, adaptive machine learning has come on to a great degree now, and our systems are resilient and reliable. But again, they are at the mercy of robust integrations. So as we've seen with other events, we really want to make sure that we're in in a good state to come out of this using the data, not just that reliance on the historical data.
The time is up for this question as we are in strict planning for today. So let's go on to the next 4 questions to choose off. Now we have the opportunity to talk about, have there been any unexpected advantages since the crisis? Any examples of positive temporary repurposing of resources? How does the solution differ globally in your experience? Have you already started planning for after the pandemic? Please make your choice in the poll, and then we know what we are going to talk about, because we cannot handle all the questions, but definitely we will do some future virtual events like this, as we had a lot of registrations today. Almost 700 people registered for today, and we therefore also will do this more often. Steph, perhaps you can show us the outcome of this poll.
Yes, at the moment we still have some new votes coming in, so I'm going to give it 10 more seconds.
All right. Okay, that's with 41%. The question that win is: have you already started planning for after the pandemic? And after the pandemic is of course a pretty fake, because what is after? But perhaps we can just start the conversation. Who would like to kick off on this part? What are your plans, Lester? Muted again.
So, yeah, unmute now. You know,
Yeah.
I think leading up to it, or actually during this time at the moment, the most important thing we can do is just try to be there for our clients and just offer whatever support we can. That may be completely different from the way that you're currently doing business. It may be something that you normally wouldn't do, or and it may not even be something you can monetize very well. But just providing as much support as possible right now, I think is going to be a key part of the future planning. We just need to be there for our clients, our customers. Them being successful through this and us helping them be successful through it, it's going to lead to everyone being more successful going forward. How have we started planning? You know, we found a lot more interest in the way that we provide our solution than I think there was already interest, but there's certainly a lot more interest in the way we provide our solution, just because it is we do have a less touch. You know, it's less intensive from a hardware perspective on site, and there's less requirements for what you need to do locally. We've already placed orders for hardware and equipment to actually come to be manufactured in advance of this. So obviously most people are going to experience some sort of a delay or a gap in their sales when it comes to their solutions. We're counting on, as soon as this starts to recover, there being a surge in requirement that we're preparing ourselves for, so that we have product available and ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Dieme, I think this is, as you explained in the introduction, yeah, you're waiting when everybody's going to travel again, and once people are going to travel, then you also will have more people who are going to park at your facilities. But yeah, probably, I'm sure you also are thinking about what are we going to do after this, and how long will this take? So can you contribute on this question?
Yeah. Of course, with scaling down our operations, we also looked at our investments and our CapEx, non-CapEx initiatives, and we had to prioritize that differently. So, of course, we have to look in business critical and safety and compliance, and we have to invest in that. But otherwise, we also have to, if it's not business critical, yeah, then we downscale also our investments in that. On the other side, it gives us opportunities to speed up. Where we normally have an operation with 71 million passengers, there are certain jobs you can only do at night within a time frame of 4 hours. Now you have the 24 hours that you can build something. So We made a list of 180 initiatives, Schiphol wide, where we said, yeah, these are the projects that we have to speed up with, or have the opportunity to instead of doing a job in 8 weeks, we can do it in 2 weeks. So it gives us also the opportunity to speed up and look at very critical projects. Now,
okay, thank you.
Now I have to look into, okay, with which product are we going to reopen again with a certain amount of passengers? And how are we going to start up again? How are we going to communicate with our customers? What kind of pricing? Do we start directly with reservations or not? And of course, we have to make financial agreements with our contractors to speed up and scale up the operations again. Then, of course, in the meantime, we work on innovations and digitalize all aspects of our operation.
Okay, thank you, Dieme. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting site, which I did not think of, that you really can speed up all your construction activities and all other developments inside. Hans, can you explain how you are looking at the planning or after the pandemic? You showed in your own presentation this afternoon a graphic with your expectations. Yeah, perhaps you can elaborate on that part as well, and also how yeah, you as Parkopedia are looking at the time after this pandemic.
Yeah, sure. So, well, first of all, we expect recovery to take longer than most people think today. It's not going to go back up to the levels we had in January or February by, let's say, June or July. That's not going to happen. In particular, in the North American market, I expect the recovery to take quite a while, and also in certain European markets. So it's not going to happen overnight. And that also has a negative impact on parking transactions across the board. What we currently see, and we were well prepared for that because we've been working on that for quite a while, is in-car integrations. Interestingly enough for us, a lot of the OEMs went into lockdown and went dark on us for 2-3 weeks while people started working from home, until they had figured out their VPN connections and how Zoom works and all the rest of it. And then finally, they're waking up now, or have woken up. And the last 2-3 weeks have been complete frenzy. I would have never expected that. A lot of people are expediting their in-car transaction programs that we've already been working on, and adding additional components or different types of parking transactions to it. So that's a good thing. Just to remind everybody, our business model is focused on the OEMs. So we work with 20 OEMs around the world, and they are our customers. And obviously, they're hit by this pandemic as well. But we're not on the parking side as such. We integrate parking into in-car solutions, and that's something that where we see a lot of demand. Another thing that we're looking at, obviously, how can we support our transaction partners? Because we're afraid that quite a few, or that certain transaction partners may go belly up in this, unfortunately, because it will not be sustainable for them to go at 10% of their previous level of revenue for more than a few months. Everybody will run out of funds after a while, and even the strongest shareholders will turn off the pipes at a certain point. So from that perspective, we will see a lot of changes and interesting developments there. We're prepared for that, and we're engaged with our partners to deal with the situation afterwards.
Thank you, Hans. From a transaction point of view, Neil, you're working with a lot of data. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, it was just something Dieme said, which was of real interest. I think we a mantra that I heard a lot last year was every airport is unique, and that's something. Although this has been a real leveler and everyone's suffering in the same way, we've definitely noticed that in terms of strategic planning, as Dieme said, the Schiphol approach with those 180 projects to bring out of hibernation, we've tried to be very cognizant of the fact that existing clients may have just the need to speak to their providers on a weekly basis to understand specific planning. What does it mean for forecasting? So we've probably understood more than ever about the cash flow and the business continuity aspects of our clients. In terms of new clients, so typically in my sort of sales facing role, we've seen a very big halt in terms of opportunities with new airports. But we are planning still to pick up some strategic engagements into next year where it's very much a long-term view. So, for example, in our world, if you're moving to yield management of parking, it's not something that you'll just decide to do 1 minute and not the next. So we're trying to understand in a tactful way how to help airports continue with those long investment projects to future-proof as we move out of this current crisis.
Okay. Anyone would like to add a 30-second remark, or no, otherwise we go on with the next question? No? Okay, let's show the other question, Steph. Do you think traditional work practice strategy will change? Are you now placing more importance on digital strategies? What's your approach now to prospective or existing customers? Are you achieving results without face-to-face contact? A lot of questions, and which are really up to date for these times we're living in. So do you think traditional work practice strategy will change? Are you now placing more importance on digital strategies? What's your approach now to prospective existing customers, or are you achieving results without face-to-face contact? I think we do. I think we already, with the virtual conference, we are achieving results without having the real face-to-face contact, but the virtual face-to-face contact we do. Steph, how are we with the time? Oh, look at the outcome. So 36% would like to talk about, do you think traditional work practice or strategy will change? Who would like to start answering this question? Jeff, would you like to start on this one, or Lester? I saw Lester. Lester, go on.
Jeff, go if you want to start.
Sorry?
So I do believe that a lot of companies are going to figure out that working from home was actually working okay, and there'll be a lot less demand in that regards. I think people are going to see all the digital strategies they've been employing, and they will make their way back into the workforce and the industry in one way or another.
Okay. And Eliseo, what's your idea about this?
Yeah, certainly. So working practices will change as we adjust to this new way of doing business. We're currently implementing a number of initiatives and strategies that will help streamline some of our internal process, so that we're not only trying to figure out how do we work through this event, but what could possibly come up into the future as well. So as we like, I think it was Hans that say that, or Dieme, that having a pause even for a second when you're running so fast helps you at least look at those areas of improvement, and that's something that we've been really focusing during this time. So when we're done with this situation, we can be better prepared to serve our clients.
Okay, and Jeff, you're back. You pop in and out. Jeff, are you okay?
Yeah, we're good. It's a little.
Now something wrong with the sound. We don't hear you. Let's move on. Eliseo, you your answer just a minute ago. Dieme, would you like to elaborate on this question?
Yeah, since we are in the travel industry, I think work-wise, a lot is going to change in how we're going to meet in the future and how we are going to work together. I mean, you're not going to fly to London in the future for a meeting for 1 hour. I mean, it's going to be different. So I think traveling will be different for every one of us, and also in the way we work together and how we meet. So this is actually, we're forced to do this on a different way, but everyone is experiencing it's okay. So, but I think it will definitely change aviation industry in the future. And the way we...
Well, maybe I can jump in. So it doesn't really change anything at Parkopedia because we had a working from home policy before anyway, which doesn't mean that everybody was working from home, but if you wanted to, you could, and quite a few people did. So that was in place, so we didn't have a problem with that. For me personally, it's obviously a huge change because I used to say that I work from British Airways and KLM lounges and traveling the world. That is right now not really the case. So I've been grounded more or less for a while now, like everybody else. But that's probably going to change. The more strategic angle for me is looking at what working from home means to parking strategically. So if more and more people can work from home and like to work from home, then the question is, do they want to live in city centers or do they prefer to live in suburbs or even further out in the country in much cheaper places with a lower probability to get infected, where you have lower density of people, et cetera, and what does that mean for parking? And my thesis would be it's actually for parking, it's a good thing because right now a lot of the people that live in city centers may not even have a car. And if you live out in the sticks, you definitely need a car and you will have to park. Now, the question is how frequently will they park in city centers? But the future will tell us what's going to happen there. But overall, working from home will have potential impact on commercial and residential real estate, which will then lead to changes in parking behavior. And that will also change how people use on-street assets and how they will be made available by municipalities for use in different use cases.
Thank you for the bridge to Jeff. I hope your sound is good now.
I should be back now. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we see similar dynamics to what Hans talked about. You know, with our business, we've realized we could be very productive in the office or outside the office, and we don't all have to be in the office. So we're having conversations about, well, do we downsize our office or do we we were actually about to move into a bigger office and we're starting to rethink some of those decisions. So from a work perspective, it's very different. But I think the other thing that we've seen, which is really interesting, we did a program where we enabled charitable donations through the app. And it just gave us a kind of a new view of how we can use the app to help cities. So now we could promote to people that, hey, you could give money through ParkMobile to these charities in your city. And you know, thinking of different ways to use the technology, both for business purposes, also for charitable purposes, I think is something that is new to us. But we've raised already almost $30,000 for local charities for people going into the app and making a donation. And I think that's something coming out of coronavirus we're going to look to do more of. So partnering with cities, not just to help with parking, but also to help them potentially raise money for good causes in their local area.
Okay, thank you. Looking at the time, we have to go to the next question because we had some technical issues. So Steph, you can move on to the next question. So the next 4 questions we can choose of with the poll at your right. Different strategies for different lengths of crisis time, because we all don't know how long it will take. Some have some expectations, but in the end, it's all an expectation. Which products will be popular immediately after the crisis? What steps are you taking to support your affected clients? Are governments doing enough to support parking companies? Make a choice between these 4 questions. Different strategies for different lengths of crisis time. Which products will be popular immediately after the crisis? What steps are you taking to support your affected clients? Are governments doing enough to support parking companies? Make your vote at the right in the poll section, and we will have an outcome any minute. In the meantime, I would like to ask the panel if they have the opportunity to, because we have one more after this, if we can have 15 minutes more of length for this panel discussion. Is that possible for everyone?
Works for me.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So the outcome is which products will be popular immediately after the crisis? So let's talk about this. Dieme, do you have any product? I know that you, because we are both from the Netherlands, and I use your valet option a lot in your if I travel, which I don't do anymore, fortunately. But do you have any product mix or specific product which what you expect to be running? Yeah, very differently or the same as before. But what do you think is will be the most popular product after the crisis?
Yeah, so what we expect is that business travelers will start traveling first. The leisure market will, to my opinion, stay slow, will recover over longer time. And then we have products, parking products at the center near the terminal with a higher pricing, and we have remote locations. And of course, we have the valet propositions. But then again, if you think about valet parking, I mean, yeah, you're a regular customer at our valet product. But then you probably also are concerning about someone drove in your car, touched your
Sorry to interrupt, not me anymore. I'm immune, but no, but I agree. Normal passenger would.
We have to make sure that we have all measures in place that people feel safe to let someone else driving in their car. But I think the business propositions, which are self-parking products, are going to start up first.
Okay. Eliseo, do you have any idea how your customers or specific solutions you're offering will, after the crisis, get more attention or will be selling more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been hearing a lot the term touchless parking lately, and for sure, people are going to be thinking of technologies that offer the least number of touch points for their guests. At FlashParking, we've been talking about ticketless and frictionless parking for quite some time. But with COVID-19, this message, I think, is starting to really resonate out in the market. One item, though, that I think is going to, again, come into question is the use of cash and coins. As one would think that people might want to stay away from this form of payments, obviously for the obvious reasons. So that's one that I'm curious to see how that's going to evolve after COVID-19. But we will be releasing new functionality specifically targeted at limiting the spread of the virus and providing additional safety for employees and guests as well. And it will be, really interesting to see the new ways of managing this different type of services. We have a platform that offers, valet solutions, self-park, and so on. So we being able to see directly and having insight into, in particular, hospitality, who has been really hampered by this situation. So, but we feel this is short term. I think people's going to be starting to travel soon. I, for once, want to be out there and start racking up the miles again. So, really looking forward to, I think it's going to be a positive outlook, but it's going to be a little slower than we probably would like it to be.
Yeah, thank you. And Jeff, from your point of view, I know you've got one solution in your app to make the payments, but can you give your ideas of how the industry, or what as you said, mobile payment will be more popular and contactless payments will be more popular, but as ParkMobile, do you have any additional service or product or solution you're offering in your app or communicating to your clients?
Yeah, well, I think what you're going to see happening is that the traditional way that consumers would go into cities and park is going to change. They're going to be much more purposeful with their planning when they go from a suburban area into the city when it comes to parking. And they're going to be very selective with the kind of garages they're going to park in, whether they're going to park on street. So parking, which used to be just something you drive in and you find a spot, now is going to be something people are really thinking about before they leave the house, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. It used to be you know where you're going. So if you're going to a sporting event, you have your tickets to the sporting event, you know where the arena is, you drive down there, and then you find parking when you get there. Because of COVID-19 and because people are going to want to interact less with equipment, they're going to want to be closer to where they're going to. Parking is going to be much more of a considered activity. So as you drive into the city, you're going to want to know, I'm going to go to this building, so I need to park in this garage, and I need to make this reservation ahead of time. So the product or service that we offer that we think is going to really benefit beyond, the on-street parking obviously is going to do well because people don't want to touch the meter. But transient garage reservations made via app ahead of time, we think is really going to be something a lot more people are going to do, because they're going to want to be very purposeful with their journey into an urban area. They're going to want to be very safe. And by securing a parking spot before you drive into the city, it's going to give you that extra level of security.
Okay, thank you. Hans, from this point of view?
Yeah, well, for us, there are two things. With our automotive customers, it's all about transaction integration into the car. And I talked about that earlier, so no need to repeat myself. The second area is, I think, much more interesting, and it's largely driven by a secular trend, which is e-commerce and home deliveries, but also by the tailwind that we get from COVID-19 right now, and that is repurposing assets, parking assets, into last mile logistic hubs and making better use of those assets. For example, overnight, where you can use it as a micro hub for a logistics company and redistribute parcels or other deliveries for consumers or city center retail, that sort of thing, plus parking for logistics, etc. So I think what we will see is a strongly growing demand for new solutions for the parking industry in a more diversified revenue mix, meaning that in particular last mile logistics will grow significantly, and there is a huge need for it.
Okay, thank you. I hear that Dieme needs to leave us at 4 o'clock. So Dieme, I really would love to ask, because I would love to go on with the other panelists for the last session, last question. But perhaps you can just share your latest thoughts in the coming 2 minutes. What you'd like to share with this audience and also with the panel, and then thank you already for your contribution today.
Thank you, Jorrit. Yeah, it was very good to hear the different aspects and oculars from you guys. It sort of gives me another food for thought to start thinking about solutions that we can use for the future. I think it's most important that we deliver our products and develop our products in a mindset of how passengers and travelers and visitors can travel safe, and that we can convince them that with our products and services and parking facility that they are on a safe location. I think that's the important one to have a trusted product and that people see value in and are willingness to pay for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dieme, for being here. Yeah, as said, in the future we're going to do more of these events, probably monthly. So thank you for your contribution, and I would love to hear. I saw Lester also would like to give his ideas on this question. So you can drop out whenever you want, Dieme. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lester.
Yeah, I think that the question is a very tactical question. What products do you think will gain popularity immediately following the crisis? And I think the focus is certainly going to be on reducing staff on site, any way that you can provide that. So whether that's going with reservation system, immediately taking wraparound solutions that you can place on top of the existing systems, get the intercom and connectivity to mobile command centers brought up online immediately, placing devices on site that enable those different reservations and contactless payments. We need a lot less focus immediately upon the actual revenue control and management systems and more on just adding those wraparound systems to it. Also, I've heard a lot of focus on the vehicle, working and getting into the dash of the vehicle. I don't necessarily agree that that's going to be, although I agree that's we need to do that immediately, that needs to happen, we need to focus on that. But if you look at the way the cars are being deployed today, all of them have Apple CarPlay or the Google equivalent programmed into the vehicles. And that head unit in the vehicle and the vehicle itself is becoming more of a hub for that technology that's already included in your phone versus actually trying to embed different apps and different technologies into the dash of the car. That's the direction that you need to go with that for sure.
Right. Thanks, Lester. Oh, Hans, continue.
No, I was just making a comment to Lester. I'm happy to introduce you to what's going on there and to give you a demo. So you may not be aware of some of the things.
See, nice things are growing in here. So if you guys are ready for the last poll, I'll start it right away.
Steph, I think I'm now you hear me again?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because if you're running a conference for like 7.5 hours, your AirPods are not working after a while. So let's go to the last question. Steph, so are you utilizing any government support at this time? I know that in the Netherlands and a lot of countries here in Europe, they get a lot of support in the government from the government. Not always the most perfect one, but it would be really curious to hear how it's organized in the US. Have you been impacted by current import or export limitations, like no traveling, of course, to trade shows, but they were cancelled, or but might be also with getting your supplies in? Would you say now the parking industry is at high risk, or is this just a period of time which we all will survive as well? What can parking associations do to offer more support now? We started with our virtual conference to help you out and keep the conversation going. So, but what can parking associations do to offer more support at this moment? The last question of today. So we're running a bit out of time. Probably we will be finished in 10 more minutes, 10 to 15 more minutes. So, Steph, how far are we with the outcome poll?
Almost there. A couple more rolling in, and I'll share the results with you now.
So the last question is, would you say now the parking industry is at high risk, or is this just a temporary thing and we need to cope and survive in this coming months and then it will be all okay? So who would like to kick off on this part? I think it would be good to have all your opinions. Let's start with Hans, and then I go to Neil, Eliseo, Lester, and we'll end up with Jeff.
Well, what I would say is that the current business model for a lot of commercial operators is definitely putting the industry at risk. And if you are in a position where you have to rely on low interest rates and a steady cash flow, then a situation like this puts you in a very difficult spot. And if your business model as a shareholder is based on flipping assets, like what we've seen in the private equity scene in Europe going on for quite a while, then there is a huge problem with that current situation. And that's just something that will potentially lead to lower valuations, and that could cause quite a few problems, which will potentially put certain operators at risk. The parking industry as such will actually be strengthened by the crisis, in my opinion, because there's no thing that is more compatible with social distancing than your own car. And your own car will have to be parked somewhere. So parking is not going to go away, no, not anytime soon. So overall, the need for parking will stay, or will remain, or potentially even grow in the long term. In the short term, we will see some impact on certain highly leveraged business models of certain operators in the industry.
Okay, thank you so much, Hans. Neil, what do you think? Is the parking industry at high risk, or is this a temporary time?
Yeah, again, I think just building on what Hans had said, the emerging evidence that parking demand at airports is potentially going to exponentially increase on a like-for-like basis, with that consumer nervousness and reticence to potentially use public transport. Environmentally, that could be a bit of a moral conundrum for airports, certainly. But again, in the near term, we're certainly all going to see that pain, and that's different for different organizations based on the business models. In the future, it's still going to, I think we still see a great deal of excitement in mobility, more of a data-driven approach, better consumer experience along that commercial opportunity. So we arguably we would say this, but we definitely think we'll come back a lot stronger. And we've got that experience with 9/11, with SARS and others coming out of the other side and growing much faster. So I think it's hard to see through it at the moment, but I think definitely what we're hearing is there's positive light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, good to hear. Eliseo, what are your ideas from FlashParking? Is the parking industry high risk or not?
Not at all. I definitely will say that the industry is not a risk. As long as there are vehicles, like Hans said, as long as there's vehicles to be parked, there will be a need for parking. No matter whether these vehicles are autonomous or if they will need whatever the situation of how that technology evolves, they will still need to have a place to recharge and get service and so on. So again, I think we have to look for ways to get creative. So there's no doubt about that, and find different sources of revenue that these parking facilities can generate, whether that is adding more electric charging stations, staging scooters, you name it. There's a lot of options out there, and we feel now more than ever with the impact of COVID-19, this is going to play an even bigger role than in the past. So what we're doing at FlashParking is we're working with our partners to help craft creative ways to look for different sources of revenue other than just the traditional parking services that we've been accustomed to manage in the past. So definitely, parking, I don't think is not a high risk in my view, but we can get complacent. We need to continue to work resourcefully to make sure that we remain strong.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Hans had to leave, so we got a message from him. So Hans, thank you for your contribution. Lester, what do you think from IP parking? Is the industry at risk? How long will it take do you have any idea on this matter? Lester? We don't hear you.
There you go. I think if you're going to carry on trying to do business the way you always have, then it definitely puts you as a business and as a company at risk. I think that, kind of like Eliseo said, creativity, innovation, being flexible with what you're doing, and just, I mean, it's really the creativity that you'll need to have to be able to continue to step forward and move forward as a business. I think certain segments obviously are at a higher risk. Valet, event businesses, event-driven, those are certainly going to take longer to recover. I think more of the public parking sector, more general public parking will probably recover the earliest. But I do worry about the office side of things, how quickly all of these people that have gotten used to working at home, how quickly they're going to want to come back to the office, and how many companies are going to elect to downsize the office space they currently have. Because it's something we all got back when this happened, is we all got back time. People quit commuting. I was used to traveling, flying all over the place. I enjoyed it. But all of a sudden I got back a whole bunch of time that, you know, frankly, a lot of us have been making good use of in our personal lives and others. So I think it'll be hard for some of those things to recover to the levels they were, you know, right away. But there'll be areas where we can focus.
Any idea how long things will catch up again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that, and we're planning on seeing some sort of return to normalcy in the June timeframe, being able to, you know, really start having that kind of slope up back towards different things. And I think you're going to have to really listen to your clients and really listen to your customers to understand the needs and what they're looking for and what they're trying to accomplish and what sort of recovery they're seeing. And that will certainly steer and guide you on how you can help them best and how you can continue to provide value to the industry. And one of the areas I do worry about is that, you know, it's hard, even though we're doing all of this remote, the Zoom meetings, everything, and that's working, creating new relationships with people is often done face to face. And that's probably going to be one of the hardest things to do when it's fully digitized. You have to spend a lot more time with them to do it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also would look forward to have a beer with you again at the bar at one of our trade shows and congresses, but time will come back definitely. Jeff, what are your ideas? ParkMobile, do you have any expectation on when everything will catch up and gets not back to normal, but gets back to a better time? And is the industry at high risk at the moment?
Yeah, I think every industry is at high risk right now. I don't know any many industries that would say they're at low risk. Even industries that are in some ways benefiting from the current crisis, there's still some risk involved. You know, parking industry is getting very hard hit across the board, and so yes, there's a lot of risk there. But I think companies that make very smart decisions right now, companies that manage their expenses very closely, manage their programs. You know, one of the things that companies probably can't do right now as much as they've done in the past is make strategic investments for growth, because you have to take that money and really preserve it and preserve your cash right now. But coming out on the other side of this, I agree with a lot of the other panelists. We'll be back, and you know, people will still need parking, probably even more than they do today, because I think transit and ride sharing and some of these other mobility solutions are going to come back a lot slower than parking with people driving their personal vehicles into urban areas. We are anticipating kind of a climb back. I think similar to what Lester said, we're looking at June. When we talk to a lot of our city clients around the country, that kind of early to mid-June is when they kind of see things starting to come back. We serve a lot of beach communities. A lot of the beach communities are anticipating that they will be open for business this summer, and so that's what we're seeing right now. I don't think it's going to come back 100% though in the near term. I think you're going to see kind of a slow uptick over time as we adjust to the new normal. But 6-12 months down the road, the industry will be back and probably doing more than ever before.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff, and the rest of the panel. I really enjoyed this open discussion, and I really would like to thank you for your time and efforts and your contribution to this virtual conference. For all the people who joined today and who would like to join tomorrow, you need to register separately for tomorrow if you did not do that yet, so you can do that. Tomorrow we will start as of 2 p.m. Central European Time. We will have again an agenda fully packed with very interesting discussions, presentations, and so on. And for now, I would like to thank you for your contribution. I wish all my American friends a very pleasant day at the other side of the ocean, and I really look forward to see you in person again soon. But in the meantime, Parking Network would like to connect to parking professionals virtually, and we will do our utmost best to keep the industry going and spread the word and the solutions from you all to your target audience. Thank you so much, and hereby I will close this virtual conference for day one. Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you, Jorrit. Thank you for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.